broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome everyone to the AFTERBUZZ TV after show for Bachelor In Paradise, and I'm gonna get right into it because we have so many exciting things happening tonight. I can't even contain myself.
Oh my gosh!
Show. My name is Danny Hoyt. For those of you listening on the podcast, this is my voice. This is what you'll hear the rest of the night. And next to me is
Cathy Kelley. Hey.
Hey.
I was gonna say hi, and then I was gonna say hey, and then it just kind of turned into that.
Hey. Can you do it one more time? There it is. And next to you is the lovely, the polka dot pink shirted man himself.
Hiya, guys. Brooks Forrester. This is my voice, also.
Now, we teased this last week. We have a guest. I'm so excited about this because, first of all, you're a fantastic follow on Twitter. I thought I followed you already,
Wait
so I feel
a
like a
second.
jerk that I didn't already follow you before tonight.
How quickly did I refollow you?
You did. It was honest to God within like 4 seconds. It was. I was very impressed.
Very prideful.
But not only that, you have, just to give an idea of the quality of your tweets, Brooks, I believe you have a few ready to go. What are we talking about? Like, give us a quality check here.
You know, you even
of this man's, before we drop his name,
You want
this
my-
man's tweets.
He hasn't even prepared tweets, but he's just gonna go down
if
the
you
line.
guys can guess who this man is just from this tweet because you saw it today,
Or his voice, because you heard it just now.
then we will do something special here on Twitter.
I'll give you a hint. You may or may not have seen him today.
That's right.
Is that okay?
Like this.
I'm pretty sure the camera's already cut to him, so they probably have seen
No, they haven't.
it.
I'm watching.
So tonight, one of his more popular tweets was, Julia's butt hurts, but Joe is the one talking out of his ass. Hashtag Bachelor in Paradise. 200 favorites, 34 retweets.
That's a fantastic tweet.
Not bad, not bad. What about,
One more.
Okay, there's so much pressure, there's so many good ones. Because you saw it today.
Oops.
I am gonna go with,
Come on, Brooks. Handle the pressure.
Okay.
Deliver.
Okay. The best explanation for what happened
The last
in
time I put
Bachelor in
Brooks on the
Paradise can be summed up with, she's just not that into
you.
with brackets IQ. She's just not that into IQ.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Garofoca. How you doing, my friend?
Hola, amigos.
What's that
Me llamo
like getting
Michael.
your tweets read right in front of you?
No, that's amazing. It's such an honor. It's almost as awkward as being Ashley S tonight and having a poll about whether or not she's crazy going on while she's sitting right there.
Yeah,
Is it
and then
weird?
people telling her that she's crazy.
And Jonathan can call a douche to his face.
They did,
yeah,
it's like, and then,
Well, Brooks is used to that, so.
Well, I mean, but that's different. Mikey gets called out as well when he was on AfterBuzz. It's like, come on to After Paradise, not AfterBuzz. Sorry, I misspoke there. Come on to After Paradise, and we will make fun of you to your face. Like, that's the format of the show right now.
Right. Well, some people do prefer that rather than having people talk about them behind their back. I'm a big fan of confrontation.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said that then, because I've got a few things I'd like to talk to. I can tell these guys.
This is an open forum. We're
yeah.
amongst friends. Yeah.
So you came straight off the show and came straight here. How
Straight here.
from Mexico.
Straight here. I'm wearing the same boat shoes.
Is that why you're so tan? They mentioned that several times.
You're
is
not
why I'm
nearly
so
as sweaty, though, so I don't...
Yeah. Greasy, sweaty.
Can I ask you a question? Because I was watching tonight. Is there one point you were sweaty from your nipples up? I couldn't tell if it was the color of the shirt or
Yeah.
if it was the tint.
I think it.
Of your
I think it was
sweat?
like. I think I was actually wearing a hyper color shirt, and like the more I would breathe on it or sweat, it would just change color as the night progressed.
I'm not really sure what's happening here. It looks like someone else is just walking into the studio.
She smells terrific.
Hold on a second. Wait a second. Is that Sarah Herron who just walked in the studio off the street?
Yes!
You got it backwards.
Michael, be a gentleman.
Sarah, you can't just
So
walk in here
flustered.
and expect like you know how to put on headsets. There's a whole debriefing process.
Ladies and gentlemen in the studio, can we get a round of applause for Sarah Herron?
They are actually the most difficult headsets ever.
They are.
And my
What about you
cord
just
is
walked
very
in and
short.
slipped right in, slipped it
Sarah,
on the
we have been
couch?
trying to get you on here. I'm so excited. I just knocked my mic over. We've been trying to
Everyone's
get you on
so
here for-
graceful.
Breaking equipment.
I know, literally for like a year.
Guys, we have both of you. This is amazing. I have so many questions I want to ask. So let's do this. Let's recap the show with some of your thoughts intermixed, and then I want to talk to you about your
Wait,
lives, what
everyone's
you're doing.
freaking out on the chat room right
People are
now.
going crazy. Like, wait, Sarah. Sarah. Oh, hey, Michael. Sarah.
I'm
oh
doing
my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you
let's
know that moment when the girl from the old YouTube videos like, I love my Allisons, I love my house. The positive affirmation. She's a little girl. you guys ever seen this?
Go on with
Chat
it,
roll,
sure.
back me up. Okay, so it's this girl and she's doing these positive affirmations and she's so cute in the mirror. And she's like, I love my life, I love my Allisons, I love my whole life. That's how she ends it. That's how I feel right now. I love my whole life.
All right. So, first of all, overall thoughts from our guests on the couch. Give us your overall thoughts of tonight's shenanigans.
Sarah, I'll defer to you. You know, let's let the ladies go first.
I think it's just crazy. Like Joe is such a villain. I
Yeah.
can't
Jeez.
stand him.
I didn't see
I
that
want to
coming.
know
Yeah.
because you were there last season.
Yeah.
So Claire said
Claire's
that people are
comment.
different this season
Right.
and they're not looking for love. Do you believe that as a viewer?
Well, when Claire first started that whole speech, I was like, amen. Like, I really liked it. But then I agreed with Jade at the end when Claire first said that, I was like, yeah, it does just kind of seem like Joe's there causing trouble. Like,
Yeah.
Mikey's just trying to get a rose.
Yeah.
No one seemed really, like, to have the right intentions. But then Jade spoke up, and I was like, oh, yeah, Jade and Tanner are hitting it off, and Carly and
Kirk.
Kirk are hitting it off. So I think, she was a
Dan
little
and Ashley, yeah.
misspoken by saying that, I think.
Michael,
Yeah.
overall thoughts for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
Separate
can
from yourself if you can compartmentalize.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I can go off on what Sarah just touched upon. I mean, I was there when Claire makes this sort of, dramatic speech out of left field, and we were all sort of taken aback by it. I mean, she, sort of suggested while we were there that there were those people who were sort of politicking for friends to get roses because it was unclear whether or not Claire was going to give her rose to Jared or someone else, or whether or not Jared was going to already have a rose if Ashley I wanted to give Jared a rose. And so there was this potential that Claire could have a rose to give to some guy. And I believe what Claire was sort of driving at was that there were supposed friends of hers there who, rather than say, hey Claire, who do you like, who are you having a connection with, they were saying, hey Claire, if you have this rose and you have no one to give it to, like, give it to my buddy, so-and-so, or give it to my buddy so-and-so, like, let's keep him, or let's keep him around, we like him, like, let him stay. And I think that was sort of what prompted that. It was just the timing of that whole speech was sort of strange.
Did she know at that point that Jared and Ashley had kissed?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I have no sort of sense for whether or not she would have known that. I don't believe so. But I think she clearly obviously knew that Ashley I had a thing for Jared. And, and depending on the order of the rose ceremony, right? I mean, if Ashley I goes first, she could very well give her rose to Jared, and then Claire would have a rose to potentially give to someone else. So.
Well, let's dive right into let's recap this episode here because we got a lot to dig through, and I'm so freaking pumped that you guys are here because I want to get some really insight on what in the world is going on in their minds. So Joshua shows up. Let's start with that. Joshua shows up, and all right away, Tenley, Julia, Lauren, people are all trying, and Tenley is the aggressive one. I was a little surprised by this. You guys shocked at that?
I mean, I like her. I think she seems like a Disney princess, which we heard last week, and she actually was a Disney princess.
Yeah.
She reminds me so much of Amy Long. Not just because they were both Disney princesses, but because they're both
Tenley was
good
huge
people.
in Japan. Yeah, Tenley was huge in Japan. Disney princess in Disney Tokyo.
She was actually a
Disney
parade.
Tokyo.
She was one of those
They put her on the Megatron,
Right.
so yeah.
She actually, her stock for me rose throughout the entire night. Finished the night as high as it could possibly go. I think she's
Really?
After watching After Paradise, I think she's fantastic.
I was gonna say she was fantastic, but she doesn't pick well.
Well, besides that,
Thank you, Kathy.
Hey, come on, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as who she is as a person,
Yeah.
I just think her stock rose.
She seems like a sweetheart.
I don't disagree with that.
All right.
I'll say, I think also to get to your earlier question about, Joshua coming in and Tenley sort of being aggressive. And I think Tenley went through a week where she was sort of like, look, I'm not really feeling a connection with anyone. She had that sort of
She felt like a Claire.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
She had said the week before she'd never been put in that position before in her life.
Right. Nobody puts Tenley in the corner. So she sort of like was in that sort of, position where she felt, oh my, finally a guy that I'm attracted to. I mean, she had that forced kiss with JJ that got her the rose, and who knows, there might be something there with her and JJ still, we don't know, but it did sort of feel contrived. It did sort of feel like she was doing that to get the rose. And then Joshua comes in and, she likes the blonde hair and the blue eyes and the
big hands.
The big hands and the tattoos.
She's repeatedly talked about the hands.
Yeah.
And
Very
the
big
gloves.
Yeah.
Are his hands that big?
Apparently.
I don't know. He's not it's funny.
Apparently he's walking around with baseball mitts.
And I'm not. I'm not
Big
saying
foam
this.
fingers, probably.
Yeah. What's the song? Big hands. What's the what's that song?
Is a song.
Blister in the sun.
Harrison
Blister in the sun. Blister
big
in the sun.
hands, bigger disappointment or something.
Yeah, big disappointment. Yeah.
Chris's best joke of the night.
He look, and this is not a knock on Joshua. I mean, but he doesn't strike me as like a big dude. But they were all commenting. I guess compared to although Kirk is there, Mikey's there, Dan's there, those guys are bigger guys than Joshua. Whatever. Tenley took a liking to him, obviously, and he, so did Lauren I. But
yeah. It was very interesting, though. So Joshua asks her, she says yeah, and then Tanner and JJ start questioning her. I thought this was really interesting. This is when I saw JJ get really cocky. And he starts throwing out. He says Joshua only has a little bit of wit, and once that runs out, I think his time's done.
Right.
And then he goes off with like 7 witty jokes, being that Josh is like girls. Josh and girls are like water in California. It's a rarity. Giving them date cards like putting a grenade in a dude with no arms' mouth. Football players take girls out. Hockey players take girls to bed. He just kept going.
I don't want to discredit JJ on that, but some of those felt like. They were like long.
Are they from a producer?
Producer conversations were like, well, would you say he's kind of like this? And then he'd be like, he'd repeat back the phrase that's been set up for him. I feel
He's like in his bunk bed in paradise, like writing in his journal, oh yeah, I'm going to use that one. like rips out the page.
Wait, I know someone else who does something like that.
I will say, in fairness, since I, obviously, I think it's common knowledge the show, is filmed and then we have some time before the show actually airs. So,
no way.
In that time, I would think of like funny things to say about them and I would write them. Yeah.
Make sure
For
that there are
tweets,
140 characters or less.
I wouldn't do that. I would not count characters, but
You type a tweet, then you save it, and then
Guys,
I had some ready to go.
Josh's little black book. It's a black book of tweets.
It's just got little one-liners.
Joshua's book was Duck Dynasty, the memoirs of Duck Dynasty on the show.
Joshua.
Kind of doesn't surprise me.
No, it didn't. Yeah.
Kind of doesn't surprise me. What was your book of choice?
I was reading at the time a book about the Dalai Lama, like this 365 teachings
Wait,
of
you
the Dalai
get
Lama.
books though?
You're so
No. At the
Did you have
time,
a
that
book?
was like my book I was reading on the plane, and so I had it in my
gotcha, yeah.
bag, and
Okay.
So I guess this
You're not
answers
supposed
that
to have
question
gloves.
of with the desert island and the book question. That was your choice.
right, the book about the Dalai Lama. Yeah, exactly.
Sarah, did you have a book when you were down there?
Yes. I took 2. I took Girl Boss.
Oh,
So good.
Yeah, Sophia
Hashtag Girl
Amorosa.
Boss, yeah.
And I took BJ Novak's One More Thing. It's my favorite
yeah.
book.
It's good?
Yeah, I love
We were
it.
just talking about The Office earlier. That's funny.
Yeah.
We were. There we go. All right. So moving on, Joe Bailey shows up. This is interesting. This is the beginning of I think when the episode gets very interesting.
Can I
Kathy?
rewind just 1 second?
Yeah, go for it.
It's right before he shows up where Dan had convinced Carly that there were some flying crabs on the island.
Oh yeah.
That was like, I wrote
convinced her.
down, flying crabs. Amazing.
For a half a second, she was like,
Yeah.
and then she kind of gave him like, there's
He was like, yeah, there's
But she thought about
there's
it.
a bunch
Yeah,
flying
yeah.
out
So
there.
many
Thought
jokes,
about
a little time.
God, this is
Warm,
good.
humid Mexican air, things travel. But I mean, are we going to touch on the whole Molly situation first, or should we go into Joe because I don't remember the timing exactly, the order of that.
You can touch on it whenever. Let's touch on the Molly situation now.
Now let's get rolling
That
right
was
into it.
before you had showed up, right?
This is
Good one.
before you
right?
showed up.
Yeah, the day before I showed up. Yeah.
So
She was just
did
throwing
they
this
did
out
they
in the
fill
pool.
you in on this at all?
Yes.
Okay.
When I arrived, what wasn't shown is that one of the first things I do before I even grab Tenley is I have a conversation with Mikey and Dan, who obviously I know, well outside of the show, and also from Desiree's season together, and they sort of told me this whole story about how Joshua shows up and like within whatever a certain number of hours of meeting everyone, he's already telling Dan, because Dan lives in Las Vegas, he's like, oh, last time I was in Vegas and da-da-da, I went to this club and I'm on Molly and da-da-da, and then he starts talking about it separately in another conversation in front of another group of people at a separate location.
Was
and then
he
once
bragging
more.
about it?
And I mean, he was doing it as a way to like raise his stock, I guess, and to say
Like,
like,
I feel like that's
I'm
something
a
that like
partier.
Fun Dad does.
I'm a
He's like,
partier
oh yeah,
on
I
dad.
did drugs.
I'm a fun dad.
So
I'm a hip
cool.
dad.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just that's weird. That's a weird thing to want to brag
and
about.
look, I don't. My thing is this: like, I would never make a judgment about
Yeah.
someone's experimenting with drugs, or that's fine. That's his choice. If he wants to experiment with Molly, my question is, what like possessed you to share that
On
with
national
people on national television and with people you just met, as though like. You have so much you have so little to tell about yourself that's like one of the first stories you're like telling to people you barely know.
Sarah, does that raise stock in a guy for you? If you hear a guy say that,
Definitely not.
do your
No.
friends like? I mean, is that a normal thing that guys do? Do you see this happening? When
Talking
guys are trying to
about-
like impress you. They're like, yes, I was.
I think that's something guys who don't actually have experience in that culture do to make it sound like they're cooler.
So like they're cultured, like they've been around the block.
Let me take a
Like-
stab at this.
Yeah.
Get into the. Keep going, Sarah.
No, I just mean like to make it sound like they think they know what they're talking about, or like they're cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I go to Vegas, I party, but like real people don't actually.
But
brag
if you're
about that kind of
if you're
stuff.
going into a situation where you're supposed to be finding love, like wouldn't you want to put your best foot forward?
but
like,
like I
even on
think
the-
he probably
Yeah,
thought
I
it
thought
was.
that.
But on,
like,
on first dates or whatever, like you're not going to say all the awful things that you've done, like, and that's the equivalent to it, right?
Well, so let's take into context. So Josh is from Kuna, Idaho. This is why I say let me take a stab
Because-
at this
Take your
because
stab.
I know this world.
You know Idaho.
Yep.
Idaho.
I went to high school in Nampa, which is right next to Kuna.
I know where
So,
take us there.
I'm gonna get dangerous into the mind of Josh. So, I think you nailed it in the sense of like it's to some insecurity where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, everyone else must live this lifestyle. They'll like think that that's kind of cool and kind of normal. So I'm gonna project that as that's my everyday life, and people are like, no, that's not really the case. He probably did it once or
Yeah.
twice, maybe in his whole life, and then he's like, yeah, I do Molly. It's like. Someone who's actually done Molly that was confronted with it, like, oh, have you ever done it? Like, I mean, yeah, I tried it once, like, but I wasn't like a fan. Like, that's a more normal interaction between somebody, and people would be okay with that. They're like, okay, yeah, like he was pressed up against the wall, and he was like, yeah, that I did that. I'm not gonna lie about it. People are like, okay, but to
Yeah.
Michael's point, like he was just like kind of bragging about it.
And he was bringing it up. I mean, it wasn't like a general discussion
Yeah.
about like,
No one
strange.
questioned him
Just
about
weird.
it.
So let's do this then.
Possible.
Let's
Possible
go right into
scenario.
right into Tenley and Joshua's date. This little random bar in the middle of. By the way, I've been on that street. That street that they walk down. I've been
Which
on that
one?
street. It's amazing. Joshua and Tenley, and they end up sitting at that outdoor bar where they talk about the hands and about the Tokyo, being a princess in Tokyo. all
Yeah, he
these
said
different
she was a
things.
Chinese. What did you say? Something about like being a Chinese princess in
And she
Tokyo.
could-
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
something was strange.
So what's your Kathy? What's your take on this date?
She seemed really into it.
Yeah.
So that's good. I don't know.
She
Like,
giggled a lot.
She definitely
Yeah, she
giggled
did.
a
She
lot.
giggled a
She's
lot.
and she even said this later in the show. She's like, I have these 3 guys who are interested. She feels like lustful feelings towards Josh, and she's not sure that there's anything deeper than that. So that's kind of what I'm seeing as a fan as well.
Okay. Okay.
That's actually what I was told when I arrived, that she had this chemistry with Josh, but that it didn't go beyond. It wasn't intellectual, it wasn't emotional. It was just she had this physical chemistry with
Yeah.
him. And that's sort of how it was explained to me. to
I thought
shed some
the
light on it.
quote that she said, to your point, she goes, I want to hold out for that. I don't have the time to waste my heart on someone else that's not right for me, but I also have all the time in the world to wait for the right one. But that was a quote that spoke to where she
The only
was.
thing with these shows is there's not that much time.
Time being the operative word here.
Yeah.
Anything else on that date before we move to Joe and Julia's date? I'm trying to cruise through this so we highlight things, but
Cruise.
squeeze in whatever you want, wherever you want. All right, Joe and Julia's date. First of all, let's talk about how this date came about. Joe's entrance, he's sitting there awkward, it's super quiet. Like, did you hear anything about what really went down?
So when I came in, besides hearing about Joshua's entrance, I also heard about Joe's entrance, and I heard a lot about Joe's entrance actually from Ashley S., who said that, and Dan, who both told me that he was super weird. Like that.
Yeah, she called it out.
So that edit wasn't entirely misleading.
That edit,
like very awkward.
Right, that edit matched with what I was told. I mean, look, the edit made it look even more painful, but I was told he came in, he was weird, he wasn't very social, he just sort of like stared off. People would, you know, it looked like everyone was quiet, but I think there were certain times where people would say, "Hey, Joe, like, what do you think?" And he would just sort of like stare off and then randomly say.
It seems very bizarre because, like, watching Caitlin's season, he seemed to get along with all of the guys, and it was only the first time we saw anything that was really wrong was when she broke up with him.
And he snapped.
And he freaked out.
Yeah.
But then even after that, like, they were joking or something. I forget what it was, but...
Yeah, very interesting.
I felt for him at first because everyone was like, "Oh, we heard you're funny. Be funny," and I'm like, "That's a tough spot to be in." Like,
You ever had
hey,
somebody
be
say that to
funny.
you?
Yeah,
That's
like,
funny guy. Be funny.
Hey, do
Dance,
something
monkey,
funny.
dance.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know. It's like, tell us your favorite joke. Every time you say that,
Yeah,
you're like,
Yeah, like, read off his best 2 tweets.
yeah.
Michael, what book were you reading? I don't even know how to read.
I would have pulled out something like the Shack or like the Bible. You're like the letters of the
No, I was reading the 365 like expressions and the daily expressions of the Dalai Lama. Yeah, that's what I was reading. It was a gift from my parents.
You're very
It was a gift
It's
from my
actually a calendar.
It was the Dalai Lama.
the calendar.
It was the Dalai Lama in very strange
January
poses.
1.
It was very strange poses. Oh, January Dalai Lama.
His expressions. Oh my God. Sad Dalai Lama. Angry Dalai Lama.
I love
Pensive Dalai
I
Lama.
love Arbor Day Dalai Lama. Ooh.
Columbus Day Dalai Lama. Wow.
Okay.
I was gonna make an inappropriate joke.
Yeah.
Moving right on. So Joe and Julia's date. He kind of asks her. She kind of says yes. They go. The date looked fun. Sarah, yes. Cliff jumping, like they're in the water.
I didn't see it.
You didn't see this date?
No.
Oh, let's back up. Wait, let's just back up to the interaction when because he doesn't really ask her. He's
No,
like,
he doesn't.
Sure, you're going. Are you? If the ball's in your court. This is what he says to her. Remember?
Weirdest thing,
Yeah.
It was very strange.
And they're like,
Well, he
wait,
was
did
like-
he ask me on a date?
Would you want to go horseback riding? That sounds like you're asking her on the
Right.
date, not
She
like a
volunteered-
hypothetical.
But
he backed
Hypothetically,
away.
not with me. I'm just saying I get to go horseback riding, and I
Right.
was wondering if that's something you would ever want to do in your life.
In the
Just
case
in
you ever
general.
wanted to, let me know. Ball's in your court.
Yeah, it was very strange because I felt like then he backed away from exactly what Kathy said. I think that he backed away from it, and then he just was like, "Well, are you going with me on the date?" It was just very
But I
That
don't know
was
if-
him being funny.
But do you think to the edits, like, it seemed like every time he was done talking to Julia, he would have like a regular conversation, right? Like normal expression, right?
Yeah.
Engaged. And then as soon as she turned away, it was like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
second, like Two-Face.
Yeah.
Do
Well, I
you think
noticed
was
that
part of the
tonight,
edit?
but
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that is scary.
bizarre.
It tripped me out, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the conversation with the producers, the side conversation. It was like, very like it was very like Iago and Shakespeare, like a very like
Yes.
aside to the camera, like
It's
while
very
he's
interesting seeing that too, because that's not
Yeah,
something that we see on The Bachelor or Bachelorette, like having those conversations where I feel like as people that have been on the show, like you feel like those are kind of not conversations you're going to see on television, so you might feel more comfortable, and then
yeah. There's
just kidding.
no producer client privilege. Yeah, so those conversations are all fair, but yeah, you're right. I think this is even last season. I mean, correct me. There were some hidden
used a
camera.
raccoon.
There were some. There's a raccoon, but there was that Ashley Frazier conversation with
Yep.
Zach about Claire having sex with Juan Pablo in the
Down in
ocean.
the little bunker
Which
thing, yeah.
was caught by a hidden camera with with mic'd up, but other than that, I mean, there weren't like
There wasn't a
conversations
lot.
with producers.
Yeah, we talked about this, and I was like, I wanted your perspective to share with everybody here on that, because there was like cameras in the rooms, right? Like one camera, and it would turn on and you could see it, but that was pretty much it. Everywhere else, there was not really a lot of hidden cameras.
Yeah.
But for you,
Yeah.
did you feel them that they were everywhere?
They were everywhere.
Well,
They
that's
were
what I was gonna
everywhere.
ask. There was the night vision camera because they showed on After Paradise the little thing of Ashley
Yeah.
S.
They had a
being,
lot of them, yeah.
bed.
Creepy, but that was them in bed.
Yeah, there were
I mean, they
cameras
have
everywhere.
those for
everywhere.
like
And they were very
real world. They
were
have
very
those for
good. like quality cameras. Obviously, some of those hidden camera things are in color, which is very rare. Usually, it's the night vision type thing.
Sure.
And there were, everywhere, and I remember getting there, and some of the other cast members were sort of like
pointing them out,
just so you know, like there. Like I think Dan Cox spent his first 48 hours finding everyone that was there.
I think
Do you
they
kind of
learned
forget
a
about
lot.
them though? Like once you start drinking and like hanging.
and doing Molly.
After the second hit of Molly, you're over it. You forget it completely.
What were you gonna say, Sarah?
No, I think they learned a lot after the first season. Because, like, for us, they didn't know, like, we outsmarted them a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, take our mics off and go out in the
the
ocean.
ocean.
And we'd
I
spend
remember
the
that trick.
whole day out on boogie boards because we just knew they wouldn't hear or see anything we were talking
Did
about.
they try to like boom?
Yeah, they'd have a boom trying to reach all the way out there, but we'd go so
Couldn't
far
do
It was
out.
like board meetings. That's what they said.
Yeah,
Time to
we'd
have a
have
board
board
meeting, and
meetings.
everyone just paddle out there and just shout whatever you wanted.
We'd stay out for hours. It was great.
So that sets up an interesting question that I want to ask you anyway. Is because you were there for the first season and you were original cast, right? So you have a different perspective, and we have a similar perspective in the sense that we came in late, as you so eloquently put it in Twitter. I'll set you up. You said one. Oh! That has actually that was one that you had written and haven't tweeted yet.
Wait.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Save it.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Oh yeah. Because
But we went. We
Got a
were.
great tweet to look forward to. That's good.
Yeah.
We came in later,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for original
I
cast,
feel like I see where this is
do
going.
you feel like there is a challenge for the people coming in later, where you guys have already developed some type of relationship, and there's some type of like code between the original cast? It's like we don't break up, even though someone else might be better for another person. Do you tend to side with original cast members?
Yeah, I think so. Because there's just like an initial bond that happens. And I think that's why, honestly, Claire was struggling so much this time, because she came in original cast last time. And so it was like instantly easier for her to like find her connection.
Yeah.
And then this time everyone was coupled up. So clearly we're seeing her.
So that
But she came in around the same time that Michelle Money came in last time, and you would consider
like the
her
first night?
Yeah.
It does, even after like the first day. It's like
Really?
that
So
bond.
Michelle staying, that was an exception. It was like that. She did a great job to be there. They must have been a great bond between her and Cody to make that last.
Well, she felt excluded until Cody
Yeah, Michelle had a hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
swooped in.
So people coming in are going to have a hard time.
yeah, always, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because I when the format of the show was laid out, I was like, okay, well, the original cast, that won't mean a lot, because as people come in, it's like, oh, great, I want to go on a date with this person.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be that way. It seems like those...
Also, if you come in and you're armed with a date
Yeah.
card, I feel like you do sort of have an advantage. Sometimes if you're original cast, you're sitting around waiting, and if you don't have a connection, or a date, and you're not being asked on a date, you're sort of waiting for a date card to.
Well, I always said, and I even gave you this advice before you went, was what Cody did, and that was he asked Claire out, and Claire turned him down, and so his next best option was to just stay and hang out with everyone in the house, and gave up his date card. And I think if you're coming in late, that's the best way to play the game, because Cody ended up meeting Michelle. He wouldn't have I don't know if he was going to ask her on the date, but he ended up hanging out with her at the house all day anyway. He got to know all of us. And then it was like he ended up having
A better time.
experience, and we all fell in love with him, and we loved that he treated it that way. And
You kind of got welcomed into the
yeah,
family.
Yeah.
and so
It's a
we're like,
village.
okay, you're in, yeah.
Well, because, if you think about it, if he had gone on a date, it would have taken his entire first day to a girl that may or may not keep him around.
Kind of like what Jonathan was saying tonight. He's
Yeah.
like, I put a week into this relationship with Julia, and now I don't really know
Yeah.
what to do.
Well, I mean, as you were saying about how the original cast members have a better chance at staying there, that's because if you think about it, when everyone originally gets there, you're all single.
Yeah.
And then going in, if you come in later, like half of the people are paired up, so
or
there's,
you're a
there's
mistress.
less numbers. Yeah, that too.
And you're okay with it.
And I think Sarah did give me that advice, and I think that advice is very good advice. I think it wasn't applicable to me in my situation. She also gave me some other advice, which I won't share, about who to go for if she was there.
I feel like you kind of do want to share.
No, I don't.
Hey,
I
guys,
don't.
I have this big secret that I can't tell
Yeah.
you. That's what you just did to us.
That's such
Maybe
a
we'll find it.
tease.
Yeah.
you
Tell
teasers?
them. It's not.
Is there
it's
someone
not bad.
someone else you would date?
She didn't go.
No. Anyway, so I
Sarah, tell us.
I don't want to share it. So
It's okay. It's okay.
for me, I had already had this previous
What's it rhyme with?
interest in Tenley when I arrived. So I, different than Cody, who didn't already know that he liked Michelle. I already sort of, had met Tenley before and knew that she was going, and we, so
that was genuine then.
That was.
So let's talk about this. Let's dive into you and Tenley now, then, before we get to Joe and the rest of that.
I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, you're good. Let's do this.
Okay.
So how? I know that was a big scandal this season on the Bachelorette. Because there was previous relationships with Nick and Caitlin.
Right.
Do you think that is anywhere in the same conversation because you already knew Tenley and you knew that she was going to be there?
I think that that's a great question, but I think that it's so different in this setting because we are all sort of Bachelorette alums, and so we do become friends on social media and stuff, and it's just more likely that it's going to happen, that you're gonna talk, and I think there are more than one person there. Like, going back to Joe Bailey. Look at Joe. He clearly already had his eyes on Sammy, Samantha, who wasn't even there yet
nowadays, if you follow each other on Instagram and like everyone's photos, then that's flirting, essentially.
I guess so, yeah. For Tenley, with me,
romance.
in my situation, I had met Tenley at the Chris Soule's Bachelor premiere, that red carpet event that they did. I met her there, and I was impressed with her. It wasn't a romantic thing; it was a friendship thing or whatever. And we kind of hit it off as friends, and we talked, and we sort of just kept in touch sporadically here and there. Nothing like Nick and Caitlin, nothing like that. But occasionally like a message or something, a few thousand Instagram likes, and I'm just
So you knew you had a general.
But no, I knew that she was.
connection.
Yeah, I knew that she was pretty. I knew that she was nice. I knew that she, seemed to have an okay sense of humor. From what I can gather, and I thought, look, hey, if I'm going to do this show, and she's there, and she's also a little bit older, more mature, knows what she wants out of life, I would think.
According to Ashley I, she's a lot older.
A lot older. Her eggs are dead.
Dried
They're going to be dead soon. Yeah.
31.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh, a little dramatic.
Anyway, to answer your question, there was some communication before, enough to know that I'd be interested in seeing what would happen on a date.
Well, let's talk about. Can we talk about your date?
Yeah.
You can share as much as you're comfortable with, or as little as you.
I'm pretty
You
pretty
guys
much an open
walk on
book.
water.
Well, first of all, you wore the same shoes on the show. I noticed that right away.
I did wear these shoes on the show. I didn't wear them on that date though. They were blue. They were blue Sperry's, but I wore
Those
these
are the ones
rose
you walked
ceremony.
down. Yeah, you walked down.
Oh, I walked down the first day. Yeah,
Nice
and these very good, Danny.
Stalker.
Very good, Danny.
Dan
Shoe
Cox
stalker.
would not be caught wearing the same pair twice.
Shoes.
Like on the
Dan
after
brought
thing
more
and-
clothes than anyone.
Exactly. At the end of
Any
After
guy.
Paradise, he never wore the same outfit twice, it said.
What?
Yeah. Said it.
Wow.
Anyway, that's what I was referencing. So if you guys want to after laugh. Thank you guys. Thank you.
All right,
So this whole thing with Tenley, tell me where it went wrong. Or
went
did it?
wrong?
Or do you feel like there was nothing you would do different?
I honestly, and I think I said this, on the show. I honestly don't think I would have done anything differently, and I was surprised by her decision. And I was also, what you didn't see, and what I will share is that during the course of the rose ceremony day, guys and girls are kept segregated, so you don't have any communication with the opposite sex
Until the cocktail party. Okay.
That's correct. And during that day, I wanted to send, after a good date, you would send a text and say hey, I had a great time last night. So what I did
Just to be clear, was your date the night before?
the night before.
Okay, so you have this amazing
Very
date.
little time.
It ends, and then you have to stay away from her the whole
I
day.
have to stay
Not
from
just
the
her,
time.
but everyone. So
All girls,
Yeah.
girls and guys. So the next day, I wrote a little note, on a piece of paper, just hey, can't stop thinking about what a great time we had last night. Looking forward to seeing you at the cocktail party, Michael. And I gave it to one of the handlers, who was I'm not really supposed to do it. I was look, you can throw me under the bus, you can tell the producers you did it, but please just deliver it first. It's just a little note. You can read it. You can show. I was just give it to her. And so he did. And so at least I had some way of just
do you
saying
know that
hey,
he actually gave it
yes,
to her? Okay.
yes, I know that she got it.
Okay.
And other girls, and to answer your question, other girls that I would run into, there's a common area with a kitchen and food, and I would run into girls throughout the day, and they'd be oh, I saw that note, that was so cute, you have nothing to worry about tonight, and blah blah blah.
So you're riding
And
high
then would
going to
would a producer come in and be back to your rooms?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then be Michael, Michael, you can't be in here. And be like, whoa, this is the common area. Now you're changing the rules on it. Yeah, I mean, I laugh about it. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
Michael likes to think that he invented that little texting trick, but I actually did.
You did?
Yeah, I sent Robert a text message.
Really?
I think that's
On
really
paper?
cute.
And on paper, and Graham Bunn delivered it back, and Graham was our messenger back and forth until he got sick.
Till he
and
got
was
shot.
He was like,
Flow darted.
yeah,
He's
no,
the
he-
nicest guy in the world.
yeah, he
Two
just said
darts is too
he
much.
didn't want to be our carrier anymore, or something like
the
that.
pigeon refused.
The Molly smuggler.
Yeah.
So back to so you're walking to this cocktail party riding high like.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Oh my
feeling
God.
good.
Yeah, the date.
Cocktail, though, that's great.
Also, and I want to share this because this is something that
Yeah.
wasn't aired tonight, and this is also another reason why I was feeling so confident during the course of the dinner. We were sharing a lot of things. She was sharing a lot of things about her divorce and her past relationship,
Yeah.
and then she said something along the lines of, and I'm really just looking forward to continue to get to know you. And I made a comment, sort of tongue in cheek, but well, I don't even know if I'm going to be here past tomorrow night, as a rose ceremony. And she reached over and put her hand on me and said, you have nothing to worry about, that, and
Wow.
you just better not ditch me when other pretty girls show up. And I was like, well, as I said from the beginning, I have no plan B
Yeah.
here. You're the person I'm here for.
Do you feel now that she was politicking, or do you still hold her in that regard like she is incredible?
No, I think she was genuine in that moment.
Yeah.
I think we've all been in that situation where you have this incredible first date with someone, and then they just blow you off, and you never hear from them again, and you're always just kind of like, what? Didn't that go well? We were making
Never
out in front of
happened.
mariachis and
Standing in an inch of water.
Yeah, standing in this reflecting pool with waterfalls. I mean, it was beautiful, and the person said that she would call, and she never did. I think we've all had that, and so I think in that moment she meant
She
what
touched
she
my
said.
leg.
Yeah. So I think we've all had that moment where we, remember a date and wonder what could have gone wrong. You think everything has gone so perfectly, and then that person feels that way in that moment, and then they step back and they're like, "Oh my God, I got Joshua and JJ, who I also have connections with, albeit different ones, than with Michael."
Yeah.
But I think it all sort of started to hit her after the date, and that night I walked her back, and we had a little conversation, and walked along the beach, and then I walked her back, and we kissed goodnight, and I went to bed. Thinking, wow, things are. I have nothing. The next day, I spent the day with helping Mikey figure out his situation and helping because I just felt like I had nothing to worry about.
Moving forward, would you potentially explore the idea of trying to date her off the show?
I think that ship has sailed.
Okay.
I think that
chose
was
someone
our.
else.
I think she chose someone else. I think that was our sort of our moment and our time and our window. And I think I get the question a lot, well, why do the show? If you already know you like Tenley and you already have a way of communicating with her, why not go to San Diego and
what's your
see
answer?
her? And why not? And my answer was, I think I knew that she was wanting to have this experience for herself with I think she felt like it was going to be a positive thing for her in her life and part of her journey. And I felt look, here's an opportunity to guarantee myself to spend this this time with her in a romantic setting and to explore it in that way. And it's just something that I just I didn't want to pass.
Yeah.
I didn't want to
And
pass
you won't
up.
look back and wonder. It's similar to kind of
Yeah.
Nick's thinking when he went with Katie.
Yeah.
He's like, look, she wants to do this experience.
Yeah.
But I need to know.
Right.
I get that.
That's why I have no regrets. I think I think had I sat this one out and I watched the show and I saw Tenley end up with
Fall in
Josh
love,
the welder
yeah.
or JJ, and I think I would have sat back and wondered, geez, had I done it, maybe that could have been me. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe Tenley would have found me to be a better option for her. Now I know that that's not the case. So
Crazy.
I guess I was going to kind of back up a point that you've kind of pointed out we haven't talked about a lot. When we talk about the course of the show, and you had mentioned we all kind of have this Bachelor, Bachelorette franchise alumni deal where we get to know each other, and there's kind of this awkward bond, I guess, that's we've all kind of been through the similar scenario. We know the same people, and therefore it's just easier to become friends because you build on this common ground. So I think that's also true for anyone of the opposite sex, going through that experience of being on the Bachelor in Paradise, and it could be a great experience of bonding each other for a relationship. that I never really looked at before.
Yeah, and I think, and I think, the converse of what you're saying is also true, which is that sometimes it's difficult to date people who haven't had that experience and don't understand and maybe, act like they understand or are accepting of you, and then all of a sudden it turns out that they're a little resentful and don't really like the random people commenting on your Instagram photos or on your Twitter and stuff like that, and so sometimes it can be difficult and held against you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, on After Paradise, you got, 70-something% of the votes as
76.
who Tenley should have picked?
God
A
bless
little low.
America.
A little
God
low.
bless the USA.
72 for you, 16 for Joshua, and 12 for JJ.
Michael's never gotten a 72 on anything he's ever done in his life, so he was like a little low.
Yeah, did they?
It's like a
gets
C or a
100%.
C+.
Graduate?
Is that a C? What is that, a C?
It's a C, yeah.
Not in the Garofoca house.
Captain Hook.
So let's do this before we get to the rose ceremony and talk about that whole situation. Let's talk about Joe. Let's talk about the entirety of Joe.
All that is Joe.
Do you think producers knew? I want to ask you guys this. Do you think producers knew bringing Joe on that he had this edge, or do you think this all happened and they were like, "This is gold"?
Sarah, you say no.
I
Sarah, tell
don't
us.
think producers expected
He
this
wasn't
from
a
him.
villain.
No, I don't. When they asked him to Paradise, I don't think so.
They
So
probably
you
thought
think they
JJ
were like,
would be that.
whoa?
I think he had his time with Caitlyn, and then probably went, I don't know, wanted to do it again and make a bigger splash of some sort, and
He was sitting back going, you know who had it right? JJ. Like that was his model.
Have you
JJ.
noticed that?
yeah, maybe. I don't,
He knew he was going to be on camera, and he knew that he was going to get caught saying things like, "I'm just waiting for Sammy to be here." I mean, he said this openly.
He said this to producers, though. He didn't say it when he was just talking to...
Yes, he did.
He did.
He said
and
it.
a couple of them.
He said he was at.
I'm just
who
trying
was
to
he
get
at
that rose.
That little table with. He was at the
Yeah.
table with two people, and he goes, "I just can't wait till Sammy gets here." I think it was Mikey, and I can't remember who the girl was.
Said it in an ITM as well.
And he said it in ITM as well.
Yeah. As well as off to the side, to producers, in confidence, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Some people on the chat roll are giving you some love. Michael's very smart. He's great. He should date outside of the pool, the bachelor pool.
Yeah, you mentioned this this conversation
smart.
with the producer, where the producer goes, "She's not that smart, is she?" About Julia.
That's so mean.
And the producer says, "How was the kiss?" And he says, "Wasn't good." And then they cut to Julia saying it was great. Then the producer, "Why'd you let her end up kissing you?" And he said, "I wanted the rose." He had to know this stuff was on camera.
And I made a point
Yeah.
about. I'm sorry, Kathy. You can
No.
go ahead. I made a point to Brooks earlier today, actually, about this, and I and this is not to be mean or disparage Tenley, but Joe got a lot of flack for saying I kissed because I got the rose, but really that's what Tenley did with JJ,
Yeah.
right? What I mean, she.
I think it's the way that he's
kissed
going
him.
about it, and Tenley seemed more genuine when she did it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, do you think that
course.
America would have the same reaction if Joe was doing this to Ashley I or someone else who was there versus Julia, who has a kid back home?
Similar, but I don't think the same gravity because she has a kid.
Yeah.
I agree,
question.
and Julia's also a sweetheart. I mean, like
There's been no drama with
so
her.
Yeah.
nice. I mean, I mean, look, I wasn't there for very long, at least of what we've seen. I mean, someone could come in
But
that's not Tenley and swoop in and
regardless
give it a rose,
of the girl,
Julia- He
shouldn't be doing that,
He's
yeah.
being a dog, like
Well,
a dog.
Yeah.
And regardless
it's
of,
not-
of what he's like of that action just for the rose, the stuff he's saying, like
Yeah.
the beat him up, made him my bitch, like
Yeah.
he's like taking
That's
it even to the
creepy.
next
That's
extreme.
Dual
He's
personality,
nasty.
scary.
for sure.
It's scary.
I hate when people, it's the whole joke that we had, the no offense but.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
have a nice day.
No offense,
Have a
but I'm
nice
gonna say
day.
something really
Like
offensive
a
to you.
smile,
Yeah.
have a nice day. Like he just did, like he flipped a switch, and it's just
Yeah.
one of those things where
Well-
he's trying to be a Southern gentleman, but he's also being a total dick
Have a
at
nice
the
day,
same
buddy.
time.
Have a nice day.
Oh yeah,
To
you
Mikey.
you quoted him when he said that too. I didn't even get that.
He's like, "Have a nice day, buddy."
Yeah, it was just so dismissive.
Yeah.
It's like
so
he could say he can
mean.
get away with anything when you speak with that accent.
Oh my
you
gosh,
know, it's just
that baby's so ugly.
Yeah.
Bless her
Southern
heart.
gentleman. What did I do there? I just turned into a Southern gentleman. We're on America.
To your point, though, about Tenley kissing JJ, Jared did the same thing with Ashley I. In my opinion, at the end of the episode tonight, we don't see what happens because
Well,
Claire walks off. We don't see the rest of
He
the rose
could have
ceremony.
also not said that to Claire or waited until. I'm glad that he said that prior to the rose ceremony as opposed to waiting until after when he knew he was safe
And
and
I'm not
having
mad
two
at him for
girls that
doing
might
it, but-
give him roses.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it was sort of admirable that he risked, potential. But I
He did
that
go
being
up to Ashley after that.
that being said, I think he knew, and I think it's very clear, and everyone knew very well that Ashley I was very much into Jared, and if all he needed to do was snap his fingers, and Ashley I was going to come back
Or kiss her.
Speaking of Jared, so Jared and Claire's date, what went wrong there? Do you think? I mean, real quick, do you think what went wrong?
That's
there?
another example of a great first date that it to us it
seemed awesome. He kissed her beforehand. I thought he was being very gentlemanly, and then it was like maybe he just came to his senses.
I think it was the orgasm on the bungee.
screaming, yeah.
Sarah, do you think it was offensive the way he gave Claire the news on the beach?
I think he was just being honest. I think maybe but a lot of it comes from he is 8 years younger, and I think Claire is looking for something like she's just on a different level.
She wants a husband,
maturity wise, and he I don't think is there, and I don't know if he's totally over Caitlyn.
So you don't fault him for not having seen that prior to the date, because he knew he was 8 years younger prior.
No,
right?
I know. I think he was like open to the date, and he was down to go have fun. But I think in his heart, he probably knew we're going to be at different levels.
Yeah.
We're not
but
there.
Caitlyn was older than him. I feel like we've seen him be very well spoken throughout his entire time in the Bachelor franchise. We saw him even when he was talking to Caitlyn saying that he chose Britt. He was very well spoken about that. It was very strange to see him not know what to say. Right?
Yeah.
It almost looked. It kind of seemed like he was just like buckling a little bit. Like the conversation didn't even seem. He just kind of wanted it over with.
Yeah.
Is that on Claire though? Because I feel like she kind of had not confrontational, but she asked Zach in the same way last season.
Yeah, she's a little.
Which I think if a guy likes you, ask him, whatever. But
yeah, I also think like if the only thing wrong with Claire in Jared's eyes, or the only reason he wasn't interested in her was because of her birth certificate, I think that. I don't think that's the case. In other words, I think there were other reasons why he wasn't that into her. I think that the age difference would disappear if he felt, like she could potentially be that person for him.
A lot of people in the chat were saying that she's a catch and that they hope that she finds love somewhere.
Yeah. Claire?
She will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she will.
She will.
Maybe she'll find love in a humid place. Who knows?
I think she's a great human. What is that face? Don't do that face. That's the. I just looked at Brooks and he was looking at me like I won't even say it. Like he was.
I just intensified it. I don't know.
I was gonna say it looked like you were farting. Like the scene. Why were there so many farts in tonight's episode?
I've been cutting back on those, you guys. You know that.
Atomic 107 on chat said Jared knew the age difference before they went on the date, so he shouldn't have let her on if that was the case.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Interesting to see what happens there, because we get to the rose ceremony and Claire walks out mid-ceremony and leaves us with the TBC.
Wait.
So
to be continued.
We were none too pleased when that happened. It's been a long day, and we just wanted to get the rose ceremony over. And all of a
So
sudden,
is that why everyone hated us?
all of a sudden,
that
Claire
moment?
storms off, and we're like, "You have to be kidding me!"
What time is this?
You've got
approximately?
to be 5 in the morning.
Good
four
Lord.
something 5. The cocktail party started. You don't understand about something about this Sayulita and Playa Escondida is that the sun doesn't set until very, very late. Like the sunset doesn't set until like 8:39 p.m. And so once it has to be completely set for the rose ceremony, the cocktail party and the rose ceremony to even begin, and for us to make our way over and.
Just
Chris
for
Harrison
continuity,
speaks right,
probably.
right, because we want it to be a nighttime sky for the rose ceremony and for the cocktail party, and so it was a long, late night, and at that point, I mean, everyone just wanted to get it over with. We're finally lined up, we're ready to go, and then Claire, storms off. Yeah.
Did you, in that moment, think that it was to get TV time, or did you think that she was actually having an issue that she needed to address right then?
I think most folks thought this was some sort of her attention grabbing, her sort of putting herself ahead of the greater good of the group. This was, if Claire wants to go off and use the restroom at that moment, she can go off and do what she wants. She had like this, a lot of people felt like she had a sort of a sense of entitlement there. I wasn't there long enough at that moment to really know, but this is what the opinions of some of the other
Yeah.
voices there. I didn't hold out that it could be possible she really just wasn't feeling well or had a dizzy spell. I know that happened during Sarah and Brooke's season. During it's hot, it's humid,
Yeah.
people are dehydrated, people are
5
drinking.
a.m.
It's late. People, who knows? I mean, so I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a health issue, or it's her being sick, or whatever.
So when we see the next episode come back, what's the total amount of time you think that she was gone? We
It
talking
felt
10
like
minutes?
eternity. No,
45?
it was probably more like a half hour to 40
Okay.
minutes.
And are you
Yeah.
guys allowed to talk? Are you guys jumbled up, kind of like talking, or do you have to stay lined up?
No. We got down and we were sitting on the risers and talking.
But you still just
and
want to go to sleep.
We just
Yeah.
want to go to sleep, and we just want to know. I mean, some of us we just wanted to know our fate and like, what are we getting a rose? Are we not? Like, it was kind of an awkward moment.
I thought it was interesting when it led up to they play this whole Tenley. There's 3 different guys. There's you and there's JJ and there's Joshua, and then it comes down to it. I wanted it to build more. Like I wanted it to be.
They
fun.
did that out of order. That was out of order.
So where were you in the order? Was it last?
Tenley went second to last,
Second to last.
and then Claire went last.
Okay.
That was how it happened in real life. Claire storms off before any roses are even given out.
Gotcha.
So we're all lined up finally waiting for someone to be able to
interesting.
give the first rose, and Claire walks off. And it was right after Jade had spoken up, in defense of,
Sure.
finding love, and after
Yeah.
Claire's sort of self-serving speech at the cocktail party.
I was kind of wondering if there was anything more to, like, Claire. She just kind of turns to Jade and says, if the shoe fits.
Where
it.
Yeah, I don't even get that.
It didn't
She's
fit.
basically saying, in regards to you're not here to actually find love, because that was her point, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So some of us are here to find love, and there's other people that are just here to have a good time. And Jade was like, "Well, that offends me," and she was like, "Well, she
shoe
fits
fits
wear it." And I was like, "Whoa."
It didn't really make sense. So
Interesting.
and like I said
not it?
earlier, I don't.
Yeah, that's
I guess.
what happened.
When-
I just,
That wasn't really directed at Jade. I don't think
Interesting
it was
choice. Oh, okay.
just directed, but it seemed like it was.
It seemed, yeah, that's what I got out of it.
And I think I think your point is accurate. Like, your interpretation of what she
But
meant was.
even in season 1, didn't you guys feel like there was at least 1 or 2 people there that weren't in it for genuine reasons who came on the show?
Sure, yeah,
Oh, there. I mean, there
So
are people there.
how is
that's
that
not-
different than...
it's not. Yeah, it was to how her own perspective of how she
Yeah,
was feeling at the
Yeah.
moment. Like, I'm not feeling this way, so everyone else.
we only got a couple minutes left here, so I want to try and get through this. So predictions, real quick, for next week. What do you guys think? I mean, happens. You have to be careful what you say.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
wait, so who's left after the to be continued?
Who hasn't gotten roses?
Yeah.
Okay, so Carly gave hers to Kirk, Ashley S gave hers to Dan, Jade gave hers to Tanner, Tenley to Joshua, and then Claire walks off.
So that leaves who's standing?
So that
Julia.
leaves Julia
And Claire.
and Claire and Ashley I
Yeah.
to give roses
So Ashley will give it to Jared, right?
because he kissed her beforehand.
Yeah.
Julia will give
Julia.
it
Depends
to
on the order.
Joe.
If Claire goes first, she might give hers to Jared. Although no, maybe not after that conversation.
Well, then, so the wild card is Claire.
Yeah.
And I could see her doing something like giving it to somebody who is a friend and has been nice to her. Somebody like that. I
I
don't
can see
very.
her giving it to Michael.
Any thoughts, Mikey T?
I am old enough.
Michael?
Can you imagine if she gave it to Mikey T and he's like, what? I knew it all along.
If the shoe fits, whatever.
He just starts saying that all the time. But like, that's not the context, Mikey. He's like,
If
I
the
don't-
shoe fits,
I
you're
don't
my
know.
Cinderella.
When in Rome,
The
exactly.
shoe, it fits.
Doesn't really work right here. And then last thing, anything on After Paradise? I said this last week. I thought some things that Jenny Mullen said were
Yeah.
funny. Tonight, I thought she was a little offensive.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought she was totally
I
dialed
thought she was
back.
tame. I thought she
Yeah.
was tame tonight.
But
Can
she
we
did. She
talk
was
about-
offensive in my opinion too.
No,
You were crazy. I'm
That-
said
You're
that,
crazy to Ashley's face.
and we're like,
I
you
feel
know,
like she
she's
gets that
sitting
all
right
the
there.
time,
Yeah.
though.
but
She embraces
Ashley
that.
was breathing so hard and was just kind of looking around like, what the hell is happening
Did I
to
just
me?
sign up?
Sarah pointed out, and I was watching her,
Her
chest was
chest.
going so high, and she was like not. I don't think.
I think she was like, "What are they doing to me? Like, what am I? What?"
I'll have to watch
why-
that back. I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, she looks extremely uncomfortable.
She's not crazy though. Like you see her just take long pauses because she's like, I feel like I'm trying to not trip up and say something that you guys are going to edit in the wrong way.
Right.
Right.
That's how I feel as a fan.
Overthinking it now.
Yeah. But I'm so incredibly happy that the Bachelor franchise and Chris Harrison finally recognized Burning Love.
I know.
Oh yeah.
It has been how
And
long?
They did
Do
it.
you know what that was? That was a dig at Unreal. That was here's one we will recognize.
Yeah, and they even said that Chris was like, "Yeah, we watched it, we love it." Like he said, "We as the Bachelor franchise." I
Only
just finished
because Paul
Unreal.
Scheer was on.
I just finished Unreal the other day. I watched the whole thing, and yeah, I can definitely see why there'd be some
They're not
some
happy.
digs.
Just
for
a little bit.
Sure, jeez.
I think so.
But Unreal is great.
But I love Burning Love. I mean,
Or Burning Love. That's what I meant. That's what I
Yeah.
meant. Burning Love.
I do want to say this. I was
Ken
very.
Marino's
I
the
did
best.
like the way Tenley handled and carried herself, and at least her conversations. And that's that for me. I walked away with even more respect. Not that I lost any, but just watching how
Sure.
she handled her
Yeah.
conversation there.
Sure.
Yeah, it was just. I didn't see her season when she was on, so I didn't know her.
Yeah,
So-
I didn't
Yeah, me
either.
neither.
I know for a fact that was a difficult decision for her. I
Oh,
know
geez,
that
yeah.
was a tough day for her,
Yeah.
which was like a kick in the stomach for me because I thought it was going to be like a no-brainer after the
Yeah.
date we had, and then to sort of learn that it was a tough thing for her, and I could see it in her face when I was talking to her. That's why
Sure.
in my conversation with her, they showed very briefly, I was like, look, it's going to be okay. I'm still going to like you. We're still going to be friends if you don't pick me. Like, it was one date. Like, we don't have to pick out curtains. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't like me and you like one of the other guys, like, go. I'm still going to have the utmost respect for you. And I tried to convey that message of it's okay. Like, it's
Yeah.
going to be okay. And she made the decision that was best for her at the time, and you can't knock that.
Well, thank you
like-
so much for sharing all that with us. So where are you at now? Where are you living? I feel like your Instagram. You're in New York. You're in.
Yeah,
LA?
I'm in Houston, Texas right now, but I am looking to move soon, probably back to New York City, where I'm from. Probably New
Okay.
York.
Okay. And Sarah, you're just trucking along at what's it?
Don't mess it up.
72 and sunny.
72
Yeah.
and sunny. Advertising, you're
Yeah.
killing it.
Yeah.
You're working on a
big
giant
Girl
coffee
boss,
chain.
girl
Big
boss,
deal.
right here,
Hey,
girl boss.
Yes. Girl boss.
How is life for you?
It's great. Everything's great. I'm busy. I'm traveling also, not bi-coastal, but doing some little
Yeah, I follow you. You're a
California
fantastic
adventures.
Snapchatter.
No, I'm not that good. I'm
You're
not
a
as good
pretty
as
good
you. I'm good at Instagram.
You're good at
You just
both,
gotta
but you're-
start putting music to your scenic shots.
I know. That's what I said about you yesterday. I was like, Danny always posts scenic shots with music in the background.
Oh yeah. I kind of have been doing that lately. It's my thing.
That shot from Wisconsin with the barn in the back and the cow. I'm sorry, we're wrapping
the
up.
couch.
Amazing.
Thank
Oh
you.
my god, that was so
I saved
good.
it. I might.
That was so good.
I don't do a lot of Instagram videos.
I don't do Snapchat, but I do Snap sometimes while I chat with people. So that's all I.
Nice guy. Was that you tweet that, or did you just make that up?
I just made that up.
In the meantime, Michael, where can people find you on the social medias?
I'm on Twitter at Michael Garofola, Garofola, and I'm on Instagram at mgarofola.
Sarah,
I'm at Sarah Herron on everything.
including Snapchat.
Wow.
Oh no, Snapchat the Sarah Herron because someone
Sarah with
took-
an H because some people get it wrong.
Yes, it's two H's. SARAHHERRON.
2 H's, 2 R's.
Yep.
Brooks?
You guys can find me on anything. If you can find me, awesome, good for you. My handles are all over the place. Brooks and Forrester's in their mix somewhere. So at Brooks Forrester on Twitter is usually where I'm at.
Where
bro.
some dashes and whatever.
Dashes, there's numbers, there's a
Give out
nap.
your phone number.
There's a nap.
Social security number
Yeah.
Take a nap somewhere in there.
too. You can find me on Twitter at Catherine Kelley and on Instagram at Cathy Kelley.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Danny Hoyt and on Snapchat at DannyHoyt47 for AfterBuzz TV. And Michael and Sarah and Brooks and Kathy, I'm Danny. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye now.
for having us.
Goodbye now. Goodbye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.